What's going on, guys, and welcome back. So, some of us already got to set championships, or I should say some of you guys did, but for those who have not, for those going today, tomorrow, throughout the week, next week, whenever your LGS is hosting their set championship, today we're going to talk about 10 best decks for your set championships. These are all decks that can absolutely win your event, and just because they're not on here does not mean they cannot win. So, coming in at number 10, Jafar's New World, the Amethyst Steel deck that focuses around Jafar and a whole new world to get you 7 lore in a single turn. If everything lines up right, you can say get 6 lore in the process through turns 1 through 4, and you would also shift into a Robin Hood Champion of Sherwood on, say, turn 3 or 4. Turn 5, you shift into your Jafar Striking Illusionist, and you sing the whole new world. You then gain the 7 lore, and if you're lucky, you draw into another whole new world, and then your Robin Hood can sing it, and you get the remaining 7 that you need to win the game. This deck can be a little linear and lose to certain disruption, so for that reason it comes in as our number 10 deck. Moving on to number 9, the only aggro deck to make our list, and fitting that it would be what I called the best aggro deck of the format. Amethyst Emerald Hyper Aggro has all the tools it needs to succeed, from being able to put threats like Madam Mim, Fox, and Snake down to not only bounce your high questing characters, but then you can also get bodies on board to help deal with your opponent's boards. Merlin Goats 4-3 also helping in this regard. Number 8, Mufasa, Mufasa, Mufasa. Probably one of the more fan favorite decks, and taking advantage of something like Mufasa to get out your really high cost characters for free when he gets banished. This deck is a lot of fun to play, and it has been seeing more and more results in the tournaments as of late. If you're interested in seeing which events and stuff decks are doing, link down below to the spreadsheet where we track all of that good stuff. Number 7. It kind of hurt me putting this deck so low because I absolutely love this deck. I also just had my first place case tournament list up on the channel, so go check that out if you want. I think decks 1 through 7 are so close you can interchange them almost at will, but Bounce Control, Tempo Control is a deck that you absolutely should expect to see at your locals. Pinocchio Talkative Puppet, being able to exert your character so that they can go and quest or challenge them before you really want them to be challenged, like your Ariel, your Sad Beast, things like that. And then Mother Knows Best, Kit Cloud Kicker, Genie, Yzma, so many ways to disrupt your tempo and allow them to gain advantage. Number 6, sorry, we're almost to the halfway point. Sapphire Steel, Wheel, Ramp, Resist, whatever you want to call it. This deck, some people are going to say this is way too low, but again, I think that the margin of difference between 1 through 7 is so small. You can absolutely put this deck higher. I would not debate that. I would not say you're wrong. I just think that 1 through 7 is such a slim margin that, well, someone had to be 7, someone had to be 6, and someone also has to be 5. This deck has been seeing things like Bell, Tamatoa, and Lucky Dime make their way in, which is also making the deck a little more resilient and good in the long game. So that's the first half of the video, guys. We're going through it pretty quick. Again, we're not going card by card, but I have links down below for all these deck lists. You can go and click and check them out. We're just covering which decks I think and a brief little bit on why. The Steel engine obviously is just insane, and being able to ramp up into that engine early is always very strong. Thank you to all of our Patreons. Your help directly helps fund giveaways such as the one on the screen for that Robin Hood Champion of Sherwood playset right now. Link down below also for that. Moving into the second half of the video, we have Amethyst Steel Control. This is the non-Jafar variant. It's been seeing a lot more success lately too. Probably the most controversial pick in my top 7. A lot of people are going to be like, no, that deck should not be up there. Maybe like 8, 9, 10 somewhere. I disagree. I think this deck is right there with all the best decks. These are probably the 2 best colors in the game. So naturally, why wouldn't it be a very strong deck? You got lots of draw power, you got lots of utility from the Amethyst, and then just the overwhelming power of the Steel engine. Number 4, Steel Song at number 4, despite winning so many big events. I think Steel Song's getting to that point like Ruby Amethyst where so many people are ready for it and preparing for it, and they're like, oh, well, I'm going to start playing this cards for that matchup specifically. Outside of like Steel Song and Ruby Amethyst, you know, maybe there's like a generic, oh, any Steel deck's going to play Benja for items, something like that. But other than those two decks, again, maybe items to a degree, not all the decks on this list people are like, I need to play this card to out that deck. Steel Song is that deck now, and I think that has bumped it down just a tick. However, another controversial pick we have, Ruby Amethyst at 3. Yeah, so I think a lot of players are finally moving on from this deck. It's slowly going down as far as representation in top cuts. At the first week of the format, I think it was like 38%, and overall for the entirety of the format, it's actually dropped down to 30%. So you might say, oh, 30% is still really good. Yes, but to go from 38 to 30 means that they're actually closer to like 20%, which means that the rate this deck is topping at has been cut nearly in half as the format has gone on. Does not mean it's not a great deck. Does not mean it's not a very cheap deck. It just means other players are starting to acquire these other cards and play these other decks. And this deck, while still having a incredible match, almost like into everything, it really doesn't have bad matchups per se. It can win or lose against virtually everything. And that's why good players can just do so well with the deck, because it just doesn't really have bad matchups per se. It has answers to majority of everything. The downside is its ceiling isn't quite as high as some of these other decks. When you get a skilled player playing another deck versus this deck, this one kind of hits its ceiling a little bit sooner, and sometimes that's why it caps out. So if this is number 3, what is remaining? You probably know, so let's get into it. Emerald Steel Discard. I don't think there's a whole lot to say here. This deck has been making a lot of waves of late. It's very, very strong. They kind of started out as like a shift tempo variant, and then the Bucky discard one was seeing a little bit of success, but not too much. And as the format went on, we started to see Prince John and the discard engine really overtake that shift engine of the deck. And this deck has been arguably a top 2 or 3 deck for the last 2 weeks now, and I don't see that stopping anytime soon. And number 1, you should have guessed it if you didn't already, like just based on the other decks that came out. Ruby. I was like, Ruby, blue, red, blue, ruby, sapphire, whatever you want to call it. Dime control, Tamatoa control, not really mana control anymore. Popsicle Patrol. I'm saying that on purpose now. It's Pop Patrol. That's the deck. Pop Patrol, because, you know, kids, I accidentally say Popsicle Patrol all the time instead of Control. So Pop Patrol is the deck name now. I'm going to change that because that's just what I'm doing. Anyway, this deck is absolutely insane. I thought it was a little overhyped, a little oversold, and I started playing it. I'm like, this is crazy. This deck is really, really good. If I had all the cards for it, this is the deck I would be taking to set championship. In the short notice, and again, kids in life kind of come before card games, so I wasn't going to go drop on a playset of Maleficence. However, as time goes on and we acquire more cards, this very well could be a deck that I end up going to play. Make sure you guys stick around, like, share, subscribe, see what I play and how I do in my set championships tomorrow. But hopefully this video helped, gave you a little insight, whether you want to play a deck, you're not sure what deck to play, or you're not sure which decks are going to be there. Here's just 10 decks that have a ton of potential, and, well, they can all win your set championships, and you get a little list, and like I said, link down below to each list as well. Thank you guys for watching, and until next time, take care.